already. So what an absolute honor to have Laila Ali with us. She is an incredible entrepreneur. You got to check out her spice line. It's right behind me. It is absolutely to die for. She's a TV host. She's an author. This is one of her books. This is another that I would highly recommend you guys picking up, her book, Reach. She's a mom of 2 beautiful kids. She is a 5-time world champion. She retired her boxing career 24-0, 21 knockouts. Not too shabby. So we are incredibly excited to be able to have this opportunity to talk to Laila today. So before we do that, Kathy, get us started. And off we go. Laila, where are you on my screen? I lost you.
You don't see me?
You'll pop up. There you go.
Hi.
Good to see you, my friend. Thank you so much for carving out the time to do this. I know how crazy busy you are.
No, it's my honor, and I'm just glad I showed up with some makeup on because that would have been a letdown for that picture that you had, and then if I had called it.
Laila, you always look good. You always look good. I'm going to start out. This is probably the most dangerous question I'm going to ask. So I'm going to, I'm going to come right out of the gate with this one. Family nicknames sometimes are fun. And I heard that your sister, Mia, has a nickname for you. I don't know if she calls you this all the time. My wife said literally if I called her this, she would punch me. And I asked your sister if you would punch me, and she said no. I think she likes it.
No. Okay. So yes, I do have a nickname. Just one for one of my sisters, and it's Sturdy Girl. Yes. She came up with that name for me. She's like, you're sturdy. I'm gonna start calling you Sturdy Girl, and it was so funny to me because I take pride in being strong and being sturdy, so I didn't have a problem with that. But I thought it was funny how she came up with it because I think one time we were at the gym or somewhere and she bumped into me, and it was no big deal to me, but she was like, dang, it's like I just bumped into a wall. Like I almost fell over and you didn't move. I was kind of just looking at her like, what? She started calling me sturdy. And that's when she realized, she was like, man, you're strong, because she never actually, I guess, felt the power, right? So
she said you were standing there like Wonder Woman, and it was like walking into a tree. But again,
I think she's exaggerating, but I am pretty sturdy.
I like that you embrace it because again, Meg said she would punch me if I called her Sturdy Girl. There's so many fun places to go with you, so we're going to kind of jump all over the place. But I want to start with, I think a lot of people think you were born into privilege. But to me, like you were born into a pressure cooker. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the way you grew up, like how you thought about failure. And especially when you started boxing, like, did you think about what if I lost, and what would that mean? How did you handle that pressure?
I think that everything you said is correct. Yeah, I was born into some privilege. I was born into pressure. I had to think about everything differently, obviously because of the situation, my unique situation. But I felt like I handled that pressure really well, and I luckily learned how to turn that into something positive for myself. Because I'm somebody who sets really high standards, and if I thought about if I fail, how would I feel if I fail? That was the thing. So yeah, those thoughts and those feelings, to answer your question, is what made me work harder, because there comes time when we know what we need to do, and sometimes we just don't want to do it, or we just need that push, or we procrastinate. So me thinking about what would happen if I fail would make me get out of bed to go running. What would when you think about sometimes the people that want to see you fail, whatever it is that gets you going, because it's going to be something different for every other person. Yeah, I definitely thought about it, and I didn't want that to happen, so I would prevent it from happening as best I could. Then when you do fail, obviously, because there have been times I failed, not in the boxing ring, but there's a way to deal with that as well, because we're not always going to win, right?
Very true. I wasn't planning on asking you this, but I saw this on Instagram, and I think you posted it like 3 days ago. So I'm going to read it. It says, "Greatness takes discipline. To play at the next level, you must not engage with drama, deceit, and low vibe individuals. High caliber opportunities require a high caliber mindset." I freaking love that. And I don't know if that's a Laila Ali original, but that is a powerful statement. What prompted you to post that?
It's something that I always have to remember, the fighter in me, and then in the comment below, I have this fighting spirit where naturally sometimes you want to react to certain things and take a stand. Whereas some people are the type that they might see something wrong, but they don't speak up. And when I was younger, I used to see that as a weakness. If you don't take a stand, if you don't speak up. And with maturity, I learned like there's a time and a place for everything, and sometimes you don't need to give certain people or certain situations any attention at all, right? So that's something that something came up that reminded me recently, and I was like, wow, this is something that I think could be powerful to share, right? Because it came from my own situation in my own life, and that's something that I'm reminded I haven't even totally mastered, right? But yeah, so that's what prompted me to share that.
I love it. There's so many fascinating things about you. But one of them that really stands out for me is you are somebody today that sets boundaries. Like, you're really good at setting boundaries. But I think what's really interesting is that at an early age, like, you were questioning things. Like, you were an outlier at an early age. If things didn't make sense to you, you were like, I don't get it. Why? And that had to cause, especially on the religious front, that had to cause probably a little bit of friction. Tell us, how did that independence and that confidence and that boundary setting and that outlierish nature take hold at such an early age, when it would seem very hard to do that at that age?
I don't really know. I think that for me, the main thing that worked for me and against me in some situations is that I just didn't have fear, right? I didn't have fear to when I had an idea, because a lot of times we have certain thoughts, we feel a certain way, but we don't speak up. That's why like I said, there's that still for me learning certain things about speaking up. But I wasn't afraid to just say what was on my mind, or to ask a question, as simple as sometimes in class, kids don't want to ask questions because they feel it will be stupid. People think it's stupid, or, they should know the answer already, or how someone's going to respond. I didn't really care about that. Back then, when I was a kid, I was really honest. And for me, with my dad being Muhammad Ali, which you're referring to, and being Muslim and being such a devout Muslim and into his religion, I think I was the only one at that young age that kind of told him, I don't want to be Muslim. I don't. First, I was like, I don't understand all of these, rules. And then when his answers didn't sway me, I was kind of like, I think I'll pass, and he was like, what,
Yeah, I'm going to take a pass on that. Like what you would ask him, well, why do we have to pray at a certain time? Or why do we have to face this way? It's like, I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. It's not logical.
Yeah. And it's funny because, some people now will take offense to that. Well, it's because they'll start explaining why. Like, let's not take it out of context. I was a kid. These are the basic things at that time that stood out to me. And since I see even more that I don't agree with, but I'm saying back then it was very basic. It was black and white to me. I was like, why do I have to pray at a certain time? Why do I have to stand by men? Why can't I eat? That was a big one. The not eating pork and you're going to go to hell. I'm like, I could be a good person and just go to hell for eating pork. That doesn't make sense. And whether that's the case or not, and that, with the religion, I'm saying back then, that's what I was thinking. And I was like, I'm
good. I love that you had that ability, and I know it got you in a lot of trouble early on. I think one of the things also that gets overlooked, especially with people that excel in athletics, is how smart you have to be to perform at high levels. And you got some good DNA. Your dad was very smart, and your mom, I think, was known as a very, very beautiful woman, but she was very smart as well. I think she wanted to go to Yale or Harvard, and I think maybe your dad put the kibosh on that. She later, I think, got her PhD, but you got some good smart genes in there. How much did intelligence play a role? Obviously, it plays a role in your entrepreneurial journey, but how much did it play a role in your success in the ring?
It definitely played a big role because, as with anything else, in a sport, you kind of have to look at the landscape. You have to look at who your opposition is going to be. You have to know timing is really important. When should I fight this person? Not only for your level of ability, but also to make the most money. Timing is key. So, and you also have to be smart to, in boxing, you got people calling you out, and as a fighter, if it was all up to us, we'd be like, I'll fight you right now. That's why it's important to have a team around you. I'll fight you for free on the street. No. If you're going to do it the right way. So there was a lot involved. And then, of course, just in my situation, being Muhammad Ali's daughter, people want to manipulate you. They want to capitalize off of you. There's a lot of shady people in boxing, just in general. That sport is just filled with shady people. And making sure that people had good intentions as they're guiding you to do what's actually best for you. And being that I was considered to be attractive, I had a lot of opportunities, Playboy and all these different directions I could have gone. Because people wanted to paint me into something or give me these opportunities that would have just taken a turn, right? And that wasn't what I was into. So I had to have the discernment. I had to have, at the end of the day, the confidence to take my time, to move along as if I was anyone else, not Muhammad Ali's daughter. I'm talking about in terms of learning how to actually fight, because I knew that, I had to get into the ring at some point, and once that bell rang, nothing else was going to matter except that girl trying to take my head off. And she was going to try 10 times harder because it was me, right? Sure. So there was just so much involved, and a lot of people just assume that all athletes eat healthy and all athletes, don't do drugs and all athletes get their rest. No, you also as an athlete have to understand how to put the right people around you to teach you how to eat properly and to share with you what are the best supplements to take that aren't banned and all of these things, because it all just moves so quickly. And then, of course, just being in the ring and being intelligent. Someone who doesn't really know boxing thinks we just get in there and fight. There's actually an art to it, knowing your distance, knowing how far to stand, knowing when to go into second gear, when to take it up a notch, feeling out a person to feel, does this person really think they can beat me, or do they mentally, just trying not to get knocked out? You have to know kind of all those things, and it's going to shape the way that you fight them.
What else is interesting on that vein is you're a relatively private person. I mean, obviously you've been in the public eye your entire life. But I think what's also very interesting is what you've done as an entrepreneur and in other aspects of your life outside of boxing. You're very strategic, like you're very intentional. Like the reason you went on Chopped, which you killed it twice, like you didn't go on there to get your face on TV. Like a lot of the things you do are very strategic. Do you think through that all the time in terms of like the strategy from an entrepreneurial perspective?
I absolutely have to think through the strategy, and sometimes you just have to be ready to pivot too, right? When opportunities came up or a step comes up that you can take that you hadn't thought about and mapped out, you got to be aware of that as well. You can't be so rigid and like, no, this is the way it has to be, because you got to be flexible and move with the flow, right? So for me, like when Chop came up, I didn't say, oh, I want to go on Chop. Chop called me, and then I thought, how can I make this work on my behalf? So and then you might create other strategies to go down that path. So yeah, I think you definitely have to be strategic. You have to be thoughtful, intentional, forecast, all of those things. I've always been really good at using my intuition and using my gut, along with the knowledge that I do have. And then I'm just smart enough to also surround myself with people who know a whole lot more than I do when it comes to business.
You are a very hands-on entrepreneur. Like I think sometimes, especially with celebrities, they think like, this spice line behind me, like, you've got a great name. You just slapped your name on somebody else's spices, but you are super hands-on. Tell us a little bit about Laila Ali lifestyle, the spices, and how you think about entrepreneurship.
I'm more hands-on than I want to be right now at this point.
No, I know that.
It's a struggle finding certain team members so I can step away, because in order to scale, right, we all know to a certain level, you can't just be quite so hands-on as I am, and I get that. But I think that because of everything else that I do, it kind of moves a little slower than I would like. But I would say Laila Ali lifestyle is something I started years ago, because when I transitioned from boxing and then into television and doing other things, I wasn't fulfilled. I was like, well, what really makes me happy? And I really like to inspire people to be the best version of themselves, the greatest version of themselves. I had to do it under the brightest lights you can imagine. So I feel like I have some expertise in that area. And then I also learned how to be healthy, right? And how to be strong through the way that I had to train to become an athlete. So I said, how can I turn this into a business for myself? And that's when I started Laila Ali Lifestyle. And then I'm very passionate about cooking. I understand the importance of the food, the quality of the food that we put in our bodies every single day. And then that's how I started my spice line, because I've always been really good at cooking, and I came out with my cookbook and now my spices. So I've had, as you know, I've had other products. I had skincare products that were healthier and cleaner. I had nutrition products, and I more recently, over maybe a year ago, decided I was just gonna focus on the spice blends, because I started to feel too stretched and really wanted to hone in on what I was most passionate about. Because being that I've decided to put my name on the brand, which I have since had some regrets about, but it's just too much to change now. I always am like the face of the brand, right? So I kind of have run my brand a little different than maybe the average brand would that isn't actually a person, right?
You have insane attention to detail. Like your packaging is unbelievable. The spices come in these metal containers that are, very different from anything that you would typically buy. So I think your attention to detail is unbelievable. What do you find more difficult, Laila, being an entrepreneur or being a boxer?
Oh man. Definitely being an entrepreneur. Being a boxer, and it's the only the only thing I've ever done where I felt 100% confident I was going to win every single time. So like literally with every cell in my body, when I walked in that ring, I was like, this is my ring. And it's just a matter of what round is going to end. Am I going to knock you out? You know, is it going to go the distance? What round am I going to knock you out? And like 100%, like it was not a question. That's something that I miss. And that's not something that I'm able to replicate, because we all know in business, you can be as confident as you want to be. You have to rely on so many different people. You got to rely on the market. You got to rely, you know, your competitors, just everything. And with boxing, it was literally like once that bell rang, it was all on me. And that was an amazing feeling for me. So being on,
I don't think everyone really knows how. I think people think you're Muhammad Ali's daughter. That's how you got into boxing, but you weren't really, I don't think, an athlete growing up. You got into a lot of fights. You got thrown out of a lot of schools. You got sent to some places you didn't want to go, but that wasn't you. You weren't like, you know, captain of this team and that team. And I think it was the Christy Martin undercard fight before a Mike Tyson bout, and you were like, oh, wait a second, you know, and that sparked your fire. What do you think drew you to it?
Oh, well, like you mentioned, and I wrote about it in my book, Reach. I was a fighter. I've always been a fighter. And, you know, I had a lot of anger growing up because of just the situation that I was dealing with, my mom in an abusive marriage. And a lot of people can relate to that anger. And then I think being that I also had it in my blood, you know, in my DNA, it just turned into a hurricane, right? And boxing was a great platform for me. It felt very natural to me. But I wasn't an athlete growing up, and I regret it. I wish if I could do my life over, you know, I would definitely participate in sports growing up and probably play another sport, not necessarily boxing, just because I don't like the way the businesses ran. But that takes a lot of work from a young child. You know, it takes your parents to be behind you, taking you to your lessons, all that, and have that growing up.
How has it been for your kids? So you have two beautiful kids. Your son Curtis is a pretty darn good athlete, which is no surprise. Grandfather Muhammad Ali, mom Laila Ali, dad Curtis Conway, who played in the NFL for 12 years and had an absolutely incredible career. Is it hard to parent them when it comes to things like athletics?
It's crazy because my daughter is actually an amazing athlete. I'm whispering because they're home from school today. She's super shy. She is like, between the two of them, she's an amazing athlete. She doesn't want to play sports. She just is not into it. She has no drive. She literally has no competitive bone in her body. And we had to accept that because it's hard to watch someone that's so talented. And we weren't trying to push her to play sports, because we both agree that they should choose what they want to do. But we made her play as a kid because we understand the importance of the discipline and everything you learn. And otherwise, she just wants to sit on her computer all day. So Sydney is a major challenge for me. My son naturally wants to play. He's playing baseball. And, you know, she's 13 now. She's at the point where we're like, we can't force her anymore because, you know, when you get to this level now, when kids are playing sport, it's not fair to the team if you have someone on the team that doesn't really want to be there. Right. And that's always her. They never knew it, but we knew she's literally killing it and better than everyone at 50%. You know, she's not even all into it. I shouldn't say better than when that's not nice, but she was like one of the best people on the team. But so for us, we have to try to instill in them, you know, the things that we know without putting pressure on them. So we encourage them to just make sure that they show up for their team, to make sure that they practice, you know, that they do their best, and just leave it all on the field, right? Because the last thing, my biggest fear in life, you know, because I do have some fears, my biggest fear in life is to have a regret. I don't ever want to feel like I didn't try or I didn't do my best. Those are the times, or like when I didn't listen to that voice inside, and then I end up with mud in my face because those are the things that bother me the most. So that's what I always try to prevent, and I'm trying to instill that in my children. Just do your best and stay true to you.
Where, Laila, did your passion for homemaking and health and wellness, like where did all that come from?
I think it's just natural for me. I think I'm kind of old school when it comes to homemaking. I truly value being a mom and the impact that a mom can have, just being at home, taking care of the house, being that comfort. Moms know we wear so many hats. We're in a different place in our world where more women are going back to work. They need to. They're trying to juggle so many different things. But I think that there was definitely value in having a mom at home that can be fully present, right? In the development of her children. So I have respect for moms that are not even working. That is a full-time job, okay? Taking care of the house, preparing meals, making sure you're paying attention to what's going on, speaking to your kids, making sure they get their homework done, taking care of everybody, especially in today's world. So I try to balance that out, and it's just as important as it is to me as my professional career.
Yeah, and you're cooking all the meals. You're in your gardens. If you want to check out some pristine gardens on Instagram, check out Laila's gardens. They're insane. But you obviously can tell that you pour your heart and soul into that. But I think part of it is you do it because you like taking care of other people and you like providing for your family in that way.
And I didn't have it growing up. So for me, I kind of overcompensate in that area as well. Because a lot of the challenges that I faced growing up came from just not having, my parents present, and having nannies and not having that comfort and that support that every child needs.
We had talked offline before this because I kind of wanted to make sure that this question was going to be appropriate. But I think it's so important today to check on people's mental health. I think on the surface, like everything looks great for a lot of people, and we don't maybe pay attention to signs that are out there. But we need to check in with the people that we care about. And you had an interesting working relationship with Hulk Hogan, who, outside of maybe The Rock, probably the most famous professional wrestler of all time. Tell us a little bit about that story, because that's a wild story.
It is wild. It's funny because Hulk and I met when I hosted American Gladiators. He was
You call him Hulk?
Hulk, yeah, I do.
You do? Okay.
Yeah. But what did you call him? I don't remember.
Hulk Hogan. No, I don't know if like people close to him call him like Terry or whatever.
I'm not close to him. So yeah, he's Hulk to me. So but yeah, he basically hosted American Gladiators with me. He was hosting, I was co-hosting. And that's how we got to know each other. We did a couple seasons together. And my memory, I introduced him to my church at the time with Reverend Michael Beckwith at Agape when I lived in California. And, me and Rev are like close. He married me twice. Both times I got married. but I introduced him to the church. He started going there. So he was going through some things in his life, and he started going there, and he let me know that was really helping him. And then next thing I knew, one day I got a call from one of the hosts from Access Hollywood, who I knew, and she said, "Did you see this story that just broke? Hulk Hogan just said you saved his life." And I'm like, "What?" She was like, they wanted to interview me, and I'm like, "I don't even know what you're talking about." And basically, he did an interview where he said that he had a gun and was getting ready to take his life. And then I called him and had some words for him, that helped him, and he didn't take his life. Now, he did not say to me on that phone call, "Hey, I was about to take my life." So I was just like, what can I say other than divine intervention? Because he didn't even call me at any point. He did an interview and shared that with the world. And him and I have not even ever had a conversation about it, even to this day. So, but I will say that we had already, at this point, we were already done shooting the show. So it's not like I came to work and he just didn't say anything. There's elephant in the room. We just weren't really around each other anymore in the time passed. So I was that's why I said it's funny to me, because I'm just like, hey, and it doesn't matter like that we haven't talked. The fact is I said, that's great. What can I say other than that? You know, sometimes there is divine intervention, and in that moment, you know, something that I said, I can't even remember what I said, but we may have been talking about just some spirituality because I had, you know, introduced him to my church.
Do you know what prompted you to make the call?
I have no idea. I don't remember. Like I said, I couldn't even remember the exact time of the call. It was news to me. Like, yeah, because I had to do it. I didn't want to say no to her because we were friendly for the interview, but I had to do an interview, and I said, I'm honest. Like, I'm just going to say what it is, you know. So I just said, like, I didn't even know, you know, and I think that's great. So, and I'm sure, you know, like I said, he's alive. He's alive and well. Yeah. So I'm happy to hear that. So I was happy to hear that.
What's next for you? I know there's some TV stuff. I don't know if you could talk about it, but tell us a little bit about what's going on with you in the future.
So I had moved to Georgia, right, in 2021, wanted to change the scenery, and there was a lot going on in the world at the time, right? And there were some certain things I didn't want any part of. So I was just like, you know what, I guess I just won't do TV anymore. And then time has passed, and I got a couple calls to come back and host a show. So I can't talk about it yet. It's in your contract. Gotcha. It's not public. But I'm going to be doing another hosting job on a major network in the food space. And I'm excited about that. And then I actually just got another opportunity I'll be hosting another show as well that will be in the boxing space. So I'm excited for both, and they both just kind of came up. And again, you know, like I told you, I go back to my drawing board, like, okay, you know, and for me as an entrepreneur, I'm always like, how can I get more, you know, eyeballs on my spice blends? That's my excitement. I've never been wanted to be on TV just to be on TV. You know, I'm kind of like, because what comes with that, what I have been enjoying is kind of being anonymous here in Georgia, like, because I live my life obviously regularly. I'm not like Beyonce, like where people just running after you. But yeah, you know, like she's never going to the grocery store, okay? But I go to the grocery store. I like to go to Trader Joe's. I like to go to Sprouts. I like to go wherever I want to go, you know, without a problem. And for the most part, I get around okay. But that's the only thing I'm like, man, people don't start recognizing me again because, you know, I've kind of been, people like, she looks familiar, but if you're not like on a show, they're kind of like, not sure. So yeah, I'm getting my mind right for that, but I think it'll be fun. It'll be a good thing.
That's exciting. We will definitely tune in. Laila, you ready to take some questions from this crew?
Absolutely.
All right. We are going to go to Texas first. And Dr. Anne Maureen, you are up with Laila Ali.
Oh, wow. Hi, Laila. Thank you so much for the gift of your time. So my question is this. You've spoken a lot about that confidence comes from preparation, and that resonated so much with me. I really, really love that when you say that. And so my husband and I recently had a friendly spark, a friendly debate about leadership, especially in children. So he believes it's something you're born with, while I think it's something that can be cultivated. So given your huge platform on empowerment, how would you approach, nurturing leadership, confidence in kids, especially those kids who, are quieter, more laid back? How do you think parents can bring out those qualities in a way that honors their unique personalities?
I wish I had an excellent answer for you, but I don't. Only because I struggle with that with my daughter. And that's one thing that I always say. Like, I'll have conversations with people. I'm like, oh my God, like, it's such a challenge for me because I'm not someone who had to find her confidence. I already had it. So how do you tell someone who's not naturally confident how to be confident. I can tell my story all day long and it can inspire people, but it still doesn't give them the answer when they're not confident inside, right? So for me, that is one of the challenges that I'm facing, like I said, with my own daughter, because she is like, that's her weakness, right? Is not being confident. But I will say that what I have done and what I know I can do is speak to her positively, okay? And we already know that what your parent says, it doesn't seem like it has the same effect, right? Because they're like, you're my parent, they don't really listen. We're, to us, so, but it will, your cells and your body are listening, right? So even if you feel like they're not, I still give, ever since she was a child, I give her that positive talk. I tell her how smart she is. I tell her how beautiful she is. I tell her she's such a kind person. I tell her you can do anything that you want to do, because at some point it's going to click, at some point. Just like a parent can tell a kid, you're nothing, you're never going to be nothing, and that clicks and they start to believe that. So for me, that is the thing that I do. And I encourage her to try new things, right? And then when I'll say, see, wasn't that easy? And then I'll follow up and make her recognize, right, how she took a chance, right? Or how, it didn't, or remember that time you were afraid to meet that young lady, but then she smiled and you became friends. And I remind her of something positive so that, she can remember those interactions. But in terms of being like, you got to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you're going to have success, I can't really say. All I can say is just keep working at it, keep being positive, keep showing examples, right, of, times that it worked out to be positive. And then maybe you take some chances or do some things that you might not be comfortable. Because I tell her too, look at mommy, I didn't really want to do this. Or when she says, I'm clumsy, I drop things. I'll be like, mommy's clumsy too. I just dropped the whole jar of cinnamon. I really did that the other day. And I was like, damn, I all up. I was like, see? But so that's really all I can say. But I do believe, I think part of your question, I'm about to wrap it up because I know there's more questions, is some people are born with more confidence. It doesn't mean that you can't cultivate it. It just comes easier, right? My son is overconfident. Like I gotta back him down, because that's great, but stop thinking that you can do the same thing that other people that have worked hard to learn how to do, that you just out the gate. That's his thing. So sometimes he has to be humbled. So, just finding that balance.
Love it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're going to Boston. Lindsay Dowd.
Hey, Laila, this has been awesome. I feel like you've lived so many lives. It's just been beyond inspiring. So here's my question. In today's climate, athletes are increasingly using their platforms for social activism, and reflecting on your father's journey and your own experiences. How do you view the role of advocating for social change, either as an athlete or an entrepreneur or just a regular person?
I think it's important. I think it's important to get behind the causes that are important to you. Get behind the causes that you believe in, and any kind of, platform that you have, then I think you should absolutely use it as long as you're comfortable doing it. I think that it's not a good idea. What I don't like is people are pressured into using their platform for something that they may not really feel comfortable, even supporting. And I think that sometimes because I think about my father and how he really took a stand. I wouldn't expect anyone to take the type of stand that he took, to really put his titles and his livelihood on the line, which a lot of these athletes aren't doing. A lot nowadays, people think just wearing a t-shirt is activism, right? And it's like, okay, if that's what you want to do, if that's a level in which you want to take a stand, fine, but let's not pretend that you're doing more than you actually are. So some people are quiet, don't ever use their platform, but are donating money, or they're speaking to children. I think that, once you take a stand about something, you got to be ready to be in it for the long haul, because especially if you're a public person, because now you're going to get asked about it. Now every organization that, is like, yeah, she or he's going to be our face of our program, and reaching out, so you have to think about that as well. But I'm totally behind, because that's the only way we're going to make a change in our world, is if we get behind the things that we believe in, right? And dedicate some of our time, energy, space, platform to those things that are important.
I love that. Do you ever worry that since you're an entrepreneur and have so many different things that you represent, that you'll lose people because you took a stand? Because that's very much the world we're in right now.
I haven't really been taking a lot of stands because I am. Sometimes people would assume that you're on board with certain things, but I'm not. And I think that for me, I'm still trying to figure out a lot myself. So I'm definitely not going to take a stand
If you're
and support something unless I really understand. Because sometimes nowadays things are painted to be a cause for a certain reason, but there's really people behind it and intentions behind it that are not what they seem. So for me, I'm very careful about that. Like I just don't, but just because I didn't post about something doesn't mean I don't care about it. You know what I mean?
100%.
So yesterday was Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. I didn't post about it. I just didn't. I didn't have time. It doesn't mean that I don't respect certain, things that he did, but some people feel pressure. Like I have to post. I gotta post, and it's like I don't feel that way. Yeah, I'm not gonna let anybody gangster me into being a part of any hashtag or anything that I don't fully believe in. And then there's one example is Black Girl Magic. I don't ever say that. Like I don't think that needs to be said. Like I am a strong Black woman. You can see that just by looking at me. I don't need to say Black Girl Magic because I think to me it's division. Like it's not okay to write white girl magic. So why are you write Black Girl Magic? To me it's just black and white. So that's why you just don't. Now those that do, that's fine. I just don't do it.
I love it. Thank you.
We're going to Kathy in Connecticut, our very own Kathy Love.
Hi, Laila. You have in almost every sentence talked about true self-care, the way you talk to yourself, the way you trust yourself. What is your go-to self-care move?
I'm about to go to it right after I get off this call. I'm about to go get a manicure and pedicure. And that is that is the one thing that I am not skipping. Like there's a lot of things that I do. But first of all, I used to be a manicurist. But it's not just that I like my nails to look good. I love getting my feet rubbed. I love putting my feet in warm water. I like taking that time for myself. And I literally really look forward to it. There's some self-care things that I do that I don't necessarily look forward to. Like one of the things that I'm doing now is, so I get up in the morning, I'm doing a lot of intermittent fasting, ladies and gentlemen, but mainly I have a thyroid disease I've been having since I was 15. I got in my 40s. I was having a hard time losing weight no matter what I did. And I am an athlete, right? So it's not about the weight. It's more about the fat on my body that I know isn't good for me. And I couldn't get it off. So I started intermittent fasting. So I have my coffee a certain way now, but in the morning I have a red light therapy that I have, and I literally have my coffee, taking my supplements. I don't necessarily enjoy that. I gotta take these supplements. But I know that if I don't do it first thing in the morning, it's not gonna happen. So the things that you may know you need to do for yourself, it's like you have to schedule it because life gets busy. And we know as women, we will put other things and other people above ourselves. So those are the things, like I said, you have to schedule and be like, no, I'm going to do this even when I don't feel like doing it. I can take 5 to 15 minutes for myself. So whatever that is for you, just make sure you get it done. I hope that answered your question, Kathy.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Nadine in South Carolina, you're up.
Thank you. And thank you, Laila. This is amazing. We appreciate your time. I've heard a lot of the things that you're saying, and it feels like I'm hearing authentic. Like you're very real, right? You talked about the posting and your posting strategy. It's all about you, what you really believe in. So as someone who demonstrated resilience and tons of authenticity clearly throughout your career, what advice would you give to someone that's, really striving to align their personal values with their professional goals, but sometimes facing that doubt and facing self-doubt?
You just have to go for it. I'm saying the first thing you have to do is you just have to know, first of all, what are your values, right?
Yeah.
Some people haven't ever thought about that. And it's the same with business, your brand values and your mission statement. It's like, what is it for your life, right? And then once you know that, you just got to stick to it. Sometimes it's scary. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, that you, stay true to yourself. That's all. That's what you're going to have through the rest of your life. while you're alive is yourself. You might lose some friends, you might lose some acquaintances, but you're gonna have yourself, and you gotta lay your head down at night, right? And feel good about yourself. So I think that's important, and you gotta get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's the thing. Like, it's not always comfortable. I have to take some stands and say some things to people that I'm like, ooh, I get anxiety. Like, I get anxiety about it, like, that I have to say this, and I'll think of the nicest, kindest way I can say something, but I know that they may not take it right, but it's like, that's just part of life, it's the same conversation you would have with your children, right? When they're, dealing with individuals and choosing friends and being pressured to do something. It's like, we have to remind ourselves inside as adults, okay, it's that same basic information. It's not always going to feel comfortable, but you got to do what you know is right. And that's pretty much it. Stick to it.
Thank you.
We're going to DC. Jeannie.
Oh, hi. I'm so excited. I didn't even think I was going to get picked. Joke's on me. I wanted to ask you, I work with money, emotions, and patterns. And has there ever been a time that you yourself have had to make a challenging or difficult money decision in your business?
Difficult. Well, I would just say what comes to mind is that when I have to turn down money, just as a person that I am, and it's a deal that I'm like, there's a lot of money, and I got to run it by my husband because, it's us both in our family. But like, for example, let me use a hypothetical situation. It's kind of true, but if a company comes to me and says, hey, we want you to endorse our vitamin brand or our, pharmaceutical product, and I know that's not really something I would use, because I know that I like whole food vitamins that don't have additives and colors. And even though this product seems like a healthy product, it fits my brand, as Layla talking about vitamins for your kids, I could very well probably do it and be fine with it. But I know that no matter how much they're offering me, I would not take this vitamin. So I have to turn that deal down. So those are the times that you're just kind of like, because how many more opportunities like that are you going to get? So it's a difficult decision, right? Because it sounds like it would be easy money, and I know it probably just fly under the radar. But once I know, I can't do it. You just have to be comfortable knowing and trust in God that something else will come along to replace that tenfold, right? Because, like I said, it's no brainer if it's alcohol or something like that. But I'm talking about just a vitamin not up to the par of quality that I would promote.
Thank you so much. I love how you just kind of narrowed it down to, it's got to come from you. It's an aligned value. Otherwise, you're just not on board. And that's what gives you the clarity. So.
Absolutely.
All right, Eva, North Carolina.
Hello, Layla. This is so beautiful. I am just like taking all this in, soaking it up. And the question I had, you've answered it along the way. I wanted to know about conviction, daily conviction for greatness. But I wanted to take it a little bit further. When you're powerful like you are, we women, when we're powerful, we'll have this very strong masculine side and we have our feminine side. How do you bring that up, that you can really embody both, where you feel strong even when you feel weak? What do you do?
Well, I just, as you probably can already tell, I just be me. And, a different version of yourself is going to show up, right, for different opportunities. It's not even, different situations. It's not even something I think about anymore. I'm very comfortable switching in and out. Now, if you're not comfortable doing it, you'll get more comfortable, but you just have to embrace the moment. Like, I am literally, I think that a lot of women get confused, unfortunately, and think that you can't be a powerful woman, you can't be a businesswoman, and without, and at the same time need your man, right? And feel like you can be comforting and giving to him at the same time. That's just one example. Like, I don't need a man, I don't need this. It's like, no, actually we were created to work together. Like, we both are bringing something to the table. It doesn't mean that you can't also be strong. So what my husband appreciates about me is that in public, I'm very strong. I have my boundaries. People can think I'm attractive or whatever the case may be, but I don't give off this vibe like I want your attention. Like I need you to tell me that I'm pretty. I don't need that. But at the same time with him, I can show him my softer side and be feminine, right? And let him be dominant. But in certain situations, no, I'm going to be strong, right? So I think that I'm a little all over the place in my answer, but I think that you just have to know that it's okay to be both, embrace both. And look, some women may not want to be feminine. That's okay. If that's not you, don't feel like you have to be feminine, but I like to bring my husband his plate after I prepare a meal. I don't mind. I don't mind saying, give me your plate and I'm gonna, wash the dishes, because at the same time he says I got the dishes sometimes. So it's all about balance, and being with the right people that allow you to be all of you and accept all of you. You can't just say I like this version of you and not the other. It's a package deal, right? My husband still has to deal with my crazy side, because I still have that fighter in me, and he's just like, oh my God, like I'm like, this is what you signed up for, and it just is what it is,
I love it. We're gonna go up north to Canada. Mark Champagne. Do we have Mark?
Mark stepped out for a minute.
He's here. 1 second.
Hold the phone. We can go to Rachel. Rachel,
can you hear me?
Is Mark up?
Can you hear me?
We can. All the way up, all in Canada.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I can't hear you, but I'll fix this in a minute. My question, it might be the headphones. I recently watched Roger Federer's documentary, and there was this line where they said, a lot of people feel like my play looks effortless. And his response was really interesting. He said, I do a lot of work, obviously, to make my play appear effortless. So I was just wondering whether this is in your athletic career or entrepreneurship or your mind, like really anything. Is there an area where you think the general public feels like it looks completely effortless, but in reality, I mean, you're putting a lot of work behind the scenes that we may not be seeing, and like, what would that be?
So you still can't hear me?
Let me
though?
get the sound going here. Keep going.
Okay. I'm like, okay, I know you all can hear me, but the person asking the question can't hear me. Can you hear me now? No. Well, tell them what I said later.
Yeah, we will. It's recorded,
side.
Layla. We'll tell them.
Okay. All right. Well, I will say that, yeah, I mean, that's part of it. I think that most people are intelligent enough to know that it doesn't just happen without any work, but they may not realize how much work it actually takes. So, and the details involved in that. So for me specifically, I'll just say really quickly that when I used to spar and train, I used to always train with men, and I would train not because they were necessarily just better, because I was 168 pounds, 175 pounds, and it was hard to find women that size to box with. So it's normal. A lot of women box with men. But for me, I also would look for people who were more talented, more experienced than I was, so that when I got into an actual fight with someone in my weight class and my level of experience, it would be easy. So that's why a lot of times the fights were easy, but a lot of times that's also why I was unfulfilled, because it just wasn't fun. It was just too easy. And sometimes I would get in there and not even really do as good as I could do, because I would just fight just above their level. It's like, why pull every tool out my toolkit if I don't need it, So that was the thing. That's a whole nother conversation. My best performances happen in the gym, right? Against a certain level of opposition that no one will ever see in sparring. So yeah, I think that, how could you know? I don't think anyone can know how much work, how much sacrifice, how much pain, how much we, even as entrepreneurs or successful people who have successful businesses, how many failures they had along the way, unless you've actually been through something similar yourself.
We're going to go to Jeff Gamble. We got 2 minutes left.
All right, Scott, thank you. Laila, thank you so much for being here. This is really terrific. I want to change and go back to your dad, if I may. Certainly a name that's probably known around the world. Strong, great fighter, all that stuff. But at his funeral, Billy Crystal gave such a wonderful talk about your dad and being his little brother. It was very touching, and we don't sometimes hear the other side of people. I was wondering if you could add any light to that relationship, and if you perhaps might have one with him today. And it was just a special part of that funeral service.
Yeah, my father has touched so many lives, and he was special to so many people and had relationships with so many people that many of them I would never know or come in contact with. But yeah, I was aware of Billy Crystal and the love that he had for my father, and my father cared for him as well. And I don't communicate with him now. I think you asked me that, but I think that what touched people about my father was just his authenticity and the fact that he stood up for all people, especially as he got older in his life and got more wisdom and had been around the world. And you said he's probably known around the world. No, he's known around the world. And he used to remind us that when we were kids. Do you know that anywhere I go in the world, I can go into a country where they don't even have TV and people know me. We're like, we know Dad. So he was very proud of that. His face was so recognizable. And I think that's the thing. It wasn't because he was just because he was a great boxer. It's because, he wanted to give people who didn't have a voice. And it touched so many people. And I remember at the funeral, being at the airport afterwards, and there was a man from Sydney, Australia that came up to me, and he was just like, like everyone else, telling me his story about my father. But it was amazing to me because he didn't even have a ticket to get into the actual service. He just wanted to come be in Louisville, Kentucky, and stand outside to pay his respect. He flew here all the way from Australia. So sometimes I hear stories like that and just, wow, what a profound change that he made in this gentleman's life when he told me the story. So those are the types of things that I hear about my father, and I'm like, wow, that's big. You think about a little boy from Louisville, Kentucky, who just believed in himself, and then the impact that he's had on the world. And that's something that I hope we don't lose over time, as time goes on, of why Muhammad Ali was so great.
Thank you, Laila.
That's a wrap, guys. Laila, I cannot thank you enough. I know how crazy busy you are, and I know that you need that mani-pedi. So we're cutting into mani-pedi time.
No, you're not. You're not. I'm not that. I'm not that busy. I'm busy, but we all know. No matter how busy you are, you all know this. We take time for the things we want to take time for. So there's those people that act like they're so busy they can't return a call, they can't return a text. No, they just didn't want to take the time to do it. So for me, I do the things that are important to me. So I don't feel that busy. I'm just too busy for things that I don't want to do. So I want to do it. I'm happy to be here. Thank you. And I hope that, you all got something out of my talk today. So
it was phenomenal to spend the time with you. So guys, support her, get the spices. They're out of this world. Absolutely unbelievable. Get the books, write a review on Amazon. But Laila, again, I appreciate you because you do always make the time, and it means the world to me. You're just a very, very special person.
And so are you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you for bringing me into your world. I'm glad we met. And you already know, Scott. Anytime you need anything, just reach out. And I'll do the same. I'm gonna need something too one day soon. I'm gonna be needing something.
I'm here for you. I'm here for you. New spice blends, whatever you need. I'm your guinea pig.
Thank you.
Thanks, Laila.